Hey folks, I'm Tom Vasel. Welcome to Look Back. This is where I take a look at reviews that I did a year, 5 years, and 10 years ago and tell you what I think about them now. Although in this particular week I didn't do any reviews 10 years ago, but that's okay because I did a ton a year and 5 years ago. So let's start with a year ago. First of all, I had Gang Up, which is kind of a not take that, but you needed to play certain members of a gang to complete these just different crimes, and you needed different numbers, but it was just a really big mess of a game. Having better gang members was it let you do things. It was slow, and at the same time didn't feel fulfilling. Just really kind of a mess. I also took a look at Creepy Falls. This is a worker placement game about putting out mummies and werewolves and ghosts, and it really sounds great, but there wasn't a lot of great choices. There was some pretty bad components, and overall it was just really boring, which is unfortunate because I liked the theming of it. Klondike Rush is always the game I kind of pull out when everyone says, "You love Red Raven games?" Yeah, I didn't really like this one. It's a stock market game about the Yeti, and you're just connecting and building these different stocks, but at the end of the game, all the stocks are pretty close in value to each other, and I never felt like I made any really interesting, meaningful decisions over it. Medical Frontier is almost a good game, and incidentally, I'm going to put a little check mark here on this one, because while I thought that the game was too straightforward, it was too on rails, I know that it was just recently re-released, Z got a copy of it, and they streamlined it tremendously. So maybe they cut out some of the things that I wasn't as big of a fan of. But I like the theming of it, getting drugs and getting them out into the market. Number 9. Yeah, you'll notice that my score here seems to be lower than many people's scores. I like the idea of number 9. I just, placing tiles and putting them on top of each other, I just didn't find it that intriguing. It's just putting numbers on tiles. It's interesting. It's a way I would pass my time, but nothing more than that. By Order of the Queen. This is a cooperative game where you're completing missions and working together to go out and do these missions. It's interesting. There's a lot of cool ideas. There's great artwork in the game. And it kind of comes down to luck, which I'm not as big of a fan of. It doesn't really feel, it feels like the choices you make over the game are fairly obvious. You can do these things for strategy purposes, but then you're just guessing on luck. Jungle Party. This is a memory game for kids as you're putting different tiles down and they're moving. So kids will like this one. And it's not really for adults, but if you like memory with moving things that are going to change, you'll like it. Now, a bunch of 7s here. Secrets. This is a interesting and fun game from Bruno Feduzzi and Eric Lang, in which you are either a communist or a freedom-loving spy or a hippie in the mix. And there's a lot of moving around. It's a lot of silliness involved in the game. Nice components, though, and I did enjoy it. Stroop. Stroop is a game in which it's basically a speed game where you're turning things over and you're trying to figure out, you need to say what it is. Maybe you need to say blue or you need to say large, and you're trying to figure out the next card to play on top of something. So a blue card might go on top of something, but it might say a different word. It's kind of a little bit brain-burning speed game, but I enjoyed it. Maybe because I did okay at it. Professor Evil and the Citadel of Time. This is another cooperative game where you're trying to infiltrate Professor Evil's Citadel, a house, and, deactivate the alarms and get in. And I liked it. The theme of this one was really strong. It's not an amazing game. It's just a good, solid one, but the theme really helped out a lot. Snippets is a word game where you're writing down words, kind of like a categories type thing. But I think I like this one more than categories because it will show a part of a word, which is a little bit more interesting instead of just maybe a single letter. Bonk is a game where you're rolling marbles down or these wooden balls down, trying to knock a metal ball around on the board, or metal balls to knock a wooden ball around the board. It feels like this old-timey game, like, oh, this is a game in the 1950s, but it's really well done. It's one I take to conventions and play there. Betrayal at Baldur's Gate. Betrayal at House on the Hill is a game that has a lot of mistakes in it, and the storylines don't come together. Betrayal at Baldur's Gate didn't sound like it would work since it's set in a different universe, and why would I want to be using the Dungeons & Dragons universe with horror? But it actually does work well. I think it plays more smoothly than the original game. Wizards Won It. This is a game from Mattel, which is moving. It's like an economic game, actually. It looks all silly and fun. I'm moving my wizards around. I'm collecting crystals here and going here and buying spells and going here and helping these people do different things. But it's all about this ebb and flow of crystals and making sure you have enough. Really well done and nice components. Clans of Calendale. Oh, wow, this game is really getting a lot of love. A lot of people really enjoy this one. It's a heavier Euro style game where placing different things on the board is going to determine, I'm putting out a little farm here, and that's going to produce a different good for me. And then I use those goods to get other goods. Each person has a special power, which is extremely powerful and will kind of change how you focus on the game. Really well done. Port Royale. This fantastic game is one that I always love. It's a push your luck style game. I believe a year ago I looked at the Steve Jackson version of the game, which unfortunately they decided not to follow through with it, and that's too bad because there's a lot of great expansions for Port Royale. But basically, it's just a straight up push your luck game. But I enjoy those a lot. Charterstone. Charterstone, if you notice, my rating for this has exceedingly improved, and that's because this was my rating for when I just played the game through as a legacy game, which was fun, but not amazing. Once I made my own version of it using the recharge pack and play it, it is an amazing, great worker placement game. I like it a lot. And then finally, Pandemic Legacy Season 2. Dinged this one slightly, but it's still a great experience. I really had fun going through this one. I think the Season 1 was more memorable to me, but I thought Season 2 I liked a little bit better because it felt more like I created a unique, different experience, although we did get murdered in it. All right, 5 years ago, I took a look at If I Only Had, and this is if I only had skills to make a good game, skills to make good artwork. This is just a piece of trash. I wouldn't even bother looking at it. Guards Discworld. This one's an unfortunate one because I like the Discworld theme a lot, but this game was just a big mess. There was luck in it. Felt like there was no straightforward path. It felt like they had a good theme and just kind of randomly put a game together. Railways Express. This one follows the lines of, hey, we have this big, great game. Let's try to make a smaller, cooler version of it. And it doesn't work in this case. It's a small little thing of Railways of the Worlds doesn't work. Ticket to Ride dice game, kind of same thing. Sometimes taking a big game and making it small isn't better. And this is an example of that. Then we have Shafusa. This is a kind of like an economic game from Helvetia. Now, I like Helvetia stuff, and I like their ideas. And I like the idea of this game, but the components are really bad, and it's a little too mind-numbing with the economics that doesn't really fit the fantasy theme. It's okay. Hordes High Command. This was a deck-building game, which was based on a very popular miniatures game, and it's okay at best. I just felt very samey to me. This was not one I got excited about. Also, it kind of fell off the market. I haven't heard anyone talk about it since 5 years ago. Okay, now a slew of sixes. We have Pick a Polar Bear, which is basically just putting out a bunch of polar bears and matching them. If you like matching things that have the same type, you'll like that. Regatta, this is a kid's game where ships, you're pushing them around and flicking them around on the floor, moving them. It's interesting. Batik, this is a game where you drop in shapes and don't want to make one pop off the top. I really like it. It's fun, but it's been kind of murdered by Drop It, which just came out this year, which is a much more strategic game. Pylos, this is a beautiful game, stacking these wooden balls on top of the things, making it looks really cool, but as an abstract game, it is okay. Battlestar Galactica Daybreak. This is an expansion for Battlestar Galactica. The entire Battlestar Galactica franchise has fallen for me. This expansion is one I hardly ever play with. I had a few of the characters from it, but I found that these expansions, I was very excited about them when they came out. Not so much now because I feel like they just make the game more bloated than I would enjoy. Love Letter. Wow, Love Letter, that game that everyone loves. It's 17 cards, whatever, and I played the death out of this one. I think that's why my rating has come down a little bit. When someone says you want to play Love Letter now, I'm kind of like, I've played it 50 sometimes. I'm kind of done with it. Not a bad game, just not as interesting for me anymore. Trick of the Rails. This one would probably get a higher score if it wasn't so obtuse and so weird. It's kind of like a trick-taking game mixed with economics, mixed with trains, and it's a very complex game. They remade it recently, and Z Garcia took a look at it. I think he likes it more than I do. I think it's fine. It's just a little esoteric. New York. Now, New York here is a re-implementation of Alhambra, so I like it. The problem is they didn't make any expansions for New York. Alhambra has like 20 cool little modules and things that you can put in. So I'd rather play Alhambra than New York. But if you really must have the New York setting, this game exists. Twin Tin Bots. This is a programming style game where you're moving robots around trying to pick things up and get them back. I like it. It's definitely a pickup and delivery style programming game, and the box cover is boring as all get out, but the game itself is quite good. Lost Legacy. This is the game that kind of beats out Love Letter for me. It's very similar to Love Letter, but there's a little bit more of a gamery sense to Lost Legacy. As you're trying to figure out the right cards to go in the right spaces, you're gonna... Love Letter is pretty much, do you have this card or not? Lost Legacy has more than that, and there's a lot of different kinds of Lost Legacies that can even be mixed together. Dungeon Twister, the card game. I think I'm going to give the nod to the board game slightly because it has miniatures and standees and just looks better on the table. But the card game actually took the board game and made it into a card game. There's very little difference between the two of them. So, I mean, it's a little bit more fiddly, I guess, because you have all this information on the cards, but it really did do a good job, and I like it a lot. And BattleCon Devastation of Indines. I guess this is the time to talk about this since there's the newest BattleCon is on Kickstarter right now. This is a two-player card game that does an amazing job at mixing a two-player fighting game and turning it into a card game. There's all kinds of genres. There's a ton. There's probably too much stuff. And it's almost too complex for what it is, which is why I dinged it slightly on the rating. But I still do enjoy it. I still think it's a neat game and a lot of fun. Well, those are the reviews I did 1 and 5 years ago. And that's what I think about them now. Until next time, you've been watching Look Back. I'm Tom Vasel. Thanks for watching the Dice Tower.